Let's imagine for a moment that everything you identified with was stripped away. Your job, your relationships, your confidence, your direction, all gone. What would you do? Some might panic, others might freeze, but a few, they rebuild. Not to become who they were, but to become someone better. Today, I want to share with you 6 key principles that can help you rebuild yourself from scratch. Not just to survive, but to thrive. People often say, I'm starting over with a heavy sigh, as if they've been cast out into the wilderness of life with no tools, no compass, no map. But what they don't realize, what we all too often forget, is that we are never truly starting from scratch. That phrase, starting from zero, is a myth. It's an illusion that strips away the truth of our own journey. The truth is, when we begin again, we're not stepping into the unknown empty-handed. We're stepping in with the weight of everything we've lived through, everything we've felt, and everything we've fought to overcome. You are starting from experience. That changes everything. It changes how you see yourself. It changes the choices you make. It changes how high you lift your head when life knocks you flat. Experience doesn't always come wrapped in a bow. Sometimes it comes dressed as heartbreak. Sometimes it shows up disguised as failure, as betrayal, as rejection. Experience is always a gift, even when it's painful, especially when it's painful. I once spoke with a man who had just lost his job of 20 years. His eyes were hollow. He looked like someone who had been stripped of everything that gave his life structure. Everything I built is gone, he told me, and I could feel the weight of those words, the grief in them. But I looked at him and I asked, is your discipline gone? Your leadership? Your work ethic? And he paused, his face shifty. He smiled. Not because I said something profound, but because in that moment, he remembered who he was. He realized that what he had built wasn't just a job. What he had built was in him, and that can't be taken away. When you say, I'm starting over, you are not acknowledging all the invisible architecture you've already constructed inside yourself. The hard-won skills, the resilience, the courage to try again after the world has given you every reason not to. That's not starting from nothing, it's starting from strength. The pain you've endured, it didn't weaken you, it woke you up. The failures, they were lessons dressed in frustration. The heartaches, they taught you how to value what truly matters. That kind of education doesn't come from books. That's life's way of sculpting you into someone who can hold more complexity, more compassion, more wisdom. Think of a time when you thought you were finished, when you believed you had nothing left. And yet you got back up. Maybe it wasn't with a roar, maybe it was just a whisper, but you moved forward anyway. That wasn't weakness, that was strength, born of experience. You've already proven that you can survive. Now imagine what's possible when you thrive. Experience doesn't just help you survive the storm. It teaches you how to navigate it better the next time. The first time you face a challenge, it may feel like you're drowning. But the second time, you've learned how to swim. You've learned where the rocks are. You've learned when to rest and when to push. That's not starting over. That's starting smart. People will try to convince you that a setback means you're behind. But behind what? Who decided the timeline? Life isn't a race, it's a journey. And every detour, every pause, every restart is part of the path. The goal isn't to avoid falling, it's to keep rising. Not because you've forgotten the fall, but because you remember who you became, because of it. There is power in knowing you've been tested. There is pride in having your hands dirty with effort. There is depth in your scars that makes you more human, not less. And when you start again, you do so with eyes that have seen more, a heart that has endured more, and a spirit that refuses to quit. So don't say, I'm starting over, like it's a punishment. Say it like it's a declaration. Say it like someone who's earned the right to begin again with wisdom. Because now you know what matters. You've seen what doesn't work. You've felt the sting of regret, and now you're fueled by purpose. That's what makes this new beginning different. That's what makes it powerful. You are not who you were 10 years ago, or 5, or even last year. Life has shaped you. Sometimes gently, sometimes brutally, but in every case it has made you more. You've lived, you've loved, you've failed, you've gotten back up. That's not nothing, that's everything. So own your experience, carry it proudly, speak from it, lead from it, build from it, let it be your fire. Because the truth is, the most powerful version of you isn't the one who's never fallen. It's the one who has fallen and risen so many times that standing back up has become your second nature. When you embrace your experience, You stop fearing the unknown. You start trusting yourself more than your circumstances. You realize that what happens to you doesn't define you, what you do with it does. That's the moment you go from surviving to leading. Because when you walk into a new beginning, you're not a blank slate. You are a story in progress. You are every lesson, every mistake, every triumph, every late night, every hard conversation, every moment you didn't think you could keep going but did. And those things don't weigh you down, they lift you. So don't forget what you've been through. Don't minimize it. Don't call it nothing. It was never nothing. It was the making of you. And now that you're starting again, do it with fire. Do it with purpose. Do it with the deep, unshakable knowing that you are not starting from zero. You are starting from experience. And that, my friend, is the most powerful place to begin. When we wake up every day, we often fall into the rhythm of routine. Wake up, check your phone, get dressed, go to work, handle responsibilities, chase deadlines, repeat. The motions blur together until the days feel more like pages we've turned than experiences we've lived. But every now and then when things fall apart, or when we pause long enough to feel the stillness, we're left with a question that stares us in the face. Why am I doing all this? That question isn't there to haunt us. It's there to save. Because when you strip away the roles, the achievements, the expectations others place on you, or the ones you've unknowingly placed on yourself, you get to meet someone you may not have seen in a long time. You meet you, the raw, real version, not the parent, not the provider or the performer, just you, the person who once dreamed without fear of judgment, the one who felt something stir deep inside at the thought of making a difference, the one who wanted to matter, not just succeed. Your why lives. It's not something you invent, it's something you uncover. It's been there since the beginning, quietly steering your heart, long before you learned how to steer your life. Ask yourself, what gets me up when I don't feel like it? What keeps me going when no one is watching? What do I believe still matters, even if no one else seems to care? If you pause long enough, your heart will whisper the answers. Sometimes it's faint, sometimes it's been buried under years of noise. But it's there. It's always there. That why is not a slogan. It's not a brand. It's not something you write on a whiteboard and forget in a week. It's your compass. It keeps you grounded when you're overwhelmed. And it keeps you focused when the world is screaming at you to run in 100 different directions. Without it, we drift. We react to life instead of shaping. We chase goals because they look good on paper, not because they fulfill something meaningful within us. But when we know our why, we move with purpose. We act with courage. We lead with heart. There's a story that illustrates this perfectly, one of the most powerful stories of courage and clarity of purpose. Malala Yousafzai. She stood for education when others demanded her silence. She spoke up when silence would have been safer. And when a bullet shattered her skull because someone feared the power of her voice, she didn't stay down. She got back up. She faced the same world that tried to kill her and declared that her cause was bigger than their hatred. She didn't do that because it was easy. She didn't do that because it was glamorous. She did it because her why was louder than her fear. Her sense of purpose drowned out the noise of pain and fear and resistance. And that's the thing about purpose. It doesn't make life easier. It makes us strong. When we reconnect with our why, we stop performing and start becoming. We stop chasing validation and start pursuing meaning. We no longer ask, what can I get? But instead, what can I give? Purpose shifts our focus from status to significance. It reminds us that we were never meant to just survive. We were meant to serve, to grow, to build, to inspire. If you're feeling tired, drained, burned out, it might not be because you're doing too much. It might be because you've drifted too far from your why. When your work no longer reflects your beliefs, it becomes heavy. When your efforts aren't aligned with your heart, even success feels hollow. But when you remember why you started, when you rediscover the fire that once burned so brightly in you, everything changes. You stop needing external motivation because something internal pulls you forward. We often talk about discipline and drive and resilience, but those aren't things you summon from thin air. They come from a deeply rooted belief that what you're doing matters, that you're part of something big. You're building something that will outlast you. That's what keeps you going when results don't show up right away. That's what keeps you focused when the path is foggy. That's what gives you the courage to fail and try again, because you know the mission is worth it. You don't have to save the world to have a powerful why. Your purpose doesn't have to look like anyone else's. Maybe your why is showing your children what integrity looks like. Maybe it's building something that brings joy or healing to others. Maybe it's simply being the kind of person you wish had shown up for you Whatever it is, it's sacred, and it's yours. The world doesn't need more people chasing promotions or polishing images. The world needs more people who are willing to live from the inside out. People who are willing to remember who they are and why they're here. People who are less concerned with looking successful and more determined to be significant, not just in the eyes of others, but in the truth of their own soul. So today, ask yourself, not what you do, but why you do. And if the answer doesn't move you, dig deeper. Reconnect with what once lit you up. Reignite what you've allowed to dim. Reclaim the voice that once said, I was made for more than this. Because you were, and the world is waiting for you to remember. We live in a world that doesn't always teach us how to carry the weight of our mistakes in a healthy way. Instead of learning to hold ourselves accountable with grace, we're taught to drown in shame. Shame, that crushing whisper that says, you're not enough, you're too far gone, you don't belong. It creeps in quietly, like fog, until it covers everything in your life and clouds your sense of self. But here's the truth. Shame is not a teacher. Shame is not a guide. Shame is a thief. It steals your courage, your energy, your creativity. It disconnects you from yourself and from others. It convinces you that you are the mistake, rather than someone who made a mistake. And yet we confuse shame with accountability. We think if we hurt long enough, if we feel bad enough, if we punish ourselves enough, then somehow we've made it right. But real accountability doesn't look like self-destruction. It looks like ownership. And ownership doesn't begin with shame. It begins with self-respect. I remember a woman I once coached. She sat across from me with her shoulders tense and eyes brimming with regret. She said, I made mistakes. I burned bridges. I hurt people. I looked her in the eye and said, good. Not because hurting people is good, but because she recognized it. Because she had the courage to say it out loud. Because she wasn't hiding from the truth anymore. And when we stop hiding, we can finally start healing. I told her, that means you have the tools to fix it. Because only people who take responsibility have the power to change. You see, shame makes you small. Responsibility makes you strong. Shame says you are broken. Responsibility says you can rebuild. Shame keeps you locked in the past, spinning in circles, rehearsing what went wrong and how unworthy you are. Responsibility turns you toward the future and says, let's go make it right. One keeps you stuck. The other sets you free. We're not here to be perfect. We're not even here to be right all the time. We're here to be real. And being real means you will mess up. You will say the wrong thing. You will let someone down. You will fall short of who you wanted to be. That's not a flaw in the system. That is the system. The question isn't if you'll fall. The question is, what will you do when you do? The people who change the world, who heal relationships, who lead with heart, they aren't the ones who never make mistakes. They're the ones who learn how to face them. They take a breath, look in the mirror and say, yes, that was me. I did that, and I can do better now. That's where transformation begins. But it's not easy, because shame doesn't let go quietly. It fights. It says, who do you think you are to forgive yourself? It says you don't deserve a second chance. It says if they knew the truth, they'd walk away. And that voice, that shame, it sounds so convincing, so familiar, like an old friend. But it's not. It's a lie dressed as loyalty. And the only way to break free from it is to start speaking truth louder than it speaks fear. The truth is, you are not what you did. You are what you choose now. You are not the bridge you burned. You are the one who can rebuild it. You are not defined by your worst moment. You are shaped by what you do next. And if you're willing to take responsibility, to own the full weight of your impact, without shrinking from it or hiding behind it, then you've already taken the first step toward redemption. Forgiving yourself is not weakness. It's refusing to let your past decide your future. It's standing up and saying, I was wrong, and I still matter. That kind of forgiveness doesn't erase what happened. It honors it. It says, this matters enough for me to grow from it. And growth, real growth, doesn't come from shame. It comes from choice. The choice to stay open. The choice to stay accountable. The choice to keep showing up, even when it hurts, especially when it hurts. The woman I mentioned earlier, she did the hard work. She made amends. She wrote letters. She had tough conversations. She showed up where it was uncomfortable. And you know what happened? She didn't erase the past, but she changed her relationship to it. It became a place of learning, not loathing. She turned regret into resolve, and that made all the difference. So if you're sitting in the rubble of something you regret, don't waste another moment trying to shame yourself into wholeness. It doesn't work. It never has. Instead, step into responsibility. Take the pen back from shame and start writing a new chapter. One where you get to be both honest and hopeful. One where you make space for your humanity. One where you finally believe that healing isn't just possible, it's your responsibility. Not because you're trying to prove your worth, but because you already have it. Not because you're trying to earn love, but because you are worthy of love. Even in your mistakes, especially in your mistakes. That's where the light gets in. You don't have to carry shame to be accountable. You just have to tell the truth, to yourself, to others. And then you have to choose every day to be the kind of person who rebuilds. Not perfectly, not instantly, but consistently. Because in the end, it's not the weight of the mistake that defines us. It's whether we rise with it or stay buried beneath it. Shed the shame. Keep the responsibility. That's how we rise. We all have big dreams, and it's natural to envision that grand future we're working toward. We see the house, the success, the freedom, the recognition. We can taste it. It excites, and so often it drives us forward, making us believe that we need to race toward those dreams as quickly as possible. But the truth is, the speed at which we go is irrelevant if we don't first master the foundational stuff. It's not the dream house we need to build first. It's the habit of laying the first brick. We are in a world that celebrates the finished product, the polished, the perfected, the grand unveiling. But what we often forget is that behind every achievement, there are countless hours of hard, deliberate work. Most of that work is unseen. It's mundane, it's repetitive, but it's the bedrock of any great success. Without those small actions, without the discipline of consistency, the dream will never materialize. You don't start by building the castle. You start by laying a brick, then you lay another, and when you build the habit of laying bricks every day, suddenly, you're not just building a house, you're building a legacy. It's in those small, seemingly insignificant actions that we develop the true strength to achieve what we've set out to do. This is the system of success. It's not the desire to reach the top. It's the daily process that ensures you have the resilience and foundation to stand there when you get there. Think about it. Every successful person, every high achiever has one thing in common: habits. They wake up at the same time, consistently. They spend time reading, learning, improving. They take a walk, reflect, and think. They stay connected to their loved ones. Simple actions, but powerful. These habits don't look glamorous. They aren't Instagram-worthy moments, but they are the very essence of self-trust. The key here isn't about setting lofty goals or imagining how things could be in the future. It's about recognizing that you can't control when you'll reach the destination, but you can control what you do right now. You can control the small actions that compound into something great. You can start by showing up, even on the days when you don't feel like it. Even on the days when you think, what's the point? Even when the dream feels far out of reach. We all face those days. The days where we question whether it's all worth it. The days where the dream feels more like a burden than an inspiration. But those are the days when we need the habit of showing up the most. That's when the little things matter the most. It's in those moments that our systems are either built or broken. You see, habits are more than action. They are an investment in self-trust. When we show up for ourselves every day, when we keep promises to ourselves, we strengthen our belief in our own ability to follow through. James Clear, in his book Atomic Habits, points out that we don't rise to the level of our goals, we fall to the level of our systems. This is where most of us fall short. We set goals, we visualize the end result, but we don't focus enough on the systems that will get us. Systems are what guide us when the initial excitement fades, when motivation dips, when the path forward is unclear. Systems are the invisible framework that supports us, that keeps us on track. Imagine a person who wants to get in shape. They don't start by running a marathon. They start by committing to walking every day. They start by getting out of bed early and setting aside time to move, even if it's just for 10 minutes. Over time, that 10 minutes becomes 20, then 30, and eventually they're running miles. The dream is reached, but it's the habit of showing up, of putting in the work every single day, that makes the marathon possible. Without the commitment to that routine, to the system, there is no marathon. It's easy to be dazzled by success stories, to look at someone who has achieved something remarkable and think, I want that. I want to be like that. What we don't always see is the years of consistency, the relentless focus on small improvements, the times they showed up when it would have been easier to quit. And it's easy to feel like we're behind, that we should be further along. We're looking at someone's finished product and forgetting that we have to first build the systems that made their success possible. Building habits isn't always exciting, but it is the backbone of any lasting change. It's not glamorous, it's not instant, but it's powerful. It's the small victories that build momentum. the 10 pages of reading that expand your knowledge, the walk that clears your mind, the phone call to someone you care about that nurtures your relationships. Each of these habits strengthens you as a person. Each one is an affirmation of who you are becoming. The reality is there is no shortcut. You can't rush the process. You can't skip steps. Building success takes time. And the first step is always the most critical one. Building habits. Without them, your goals remain distant, lofty ideal. With them, your dreams become achievable realities. You will find that as you invest in the small things, you begin to change. You begin to evolve. And before you know it, your actions, your habits, will have laid the foundation for something far greater than you imagined. It's easy to want instant results, but that's not how real transformation happens. Real transformation is the product of thousands of small, deliberate actions. It's a commitment to the process, not the outcome. It's the quiet trust in yourself, in the system, that no matter how many times you lay the brick, you're building something that will last. Don't rush to build the dream house. Lay one brick, then another, and then another. Each day, each habit is a step forward. It's a choice to trust yourself. It's the key to unlocking your future. So start small, start today, and keep showing up. The dream house will come. But first, you need to build the habit of laying one brick at a time. And that, my friend, is where real success begins. The people we choose to surround ourselves with play a pivotal role in who we become. Whether we realize it or not, our environment shapes everything. Our thoughts, our habits, our belief systems, and even our sense of self-worth. As we navigate through the ups and downs of life, we constantly encounter opportunities to either rise or fall based on the relationships we form. It is no exaggeration to say that who you choose to stand with can either make or break you. This is why choosing your circle is not just important, it is crucial. It is as if your life depends on it. Because in many ways it does. Think about it. When you're facing challenges, setbacks, or moments of deep self-doubt, you need people who will help you rebuild, not people who will watch you crumble. You need people who will hand you the bricks to build your future. But more importantly, you need those who will hand you the hammer to shape your destiny. Your circle should be a group of people who won't just cheer you on from the sidelines, but will get in the trenches with you, helping you, supporting you, and pushing you to be your best. I once met a veteran who had struggled for years with PTSD. He was stuck in a cycle of isolation, self-doubt, and despair, the kind of darkness that seems to swallow you whole. Therapy was part of his healing process. But what really turned his life around was something far more unexpected. It was the support of a group of men who understood him. Not with judgment, not with pity, but with solidarity. These men came together every week, no matter what. They created a space where honesty was not only accepted but expected. They held each other accountable. They didn't let each other slip back into their old patterns. And most importantly, they showed up week after week with no ulterior motive other than to help one another heal and grow. This veteran had struggled with the idea that anyone could truly understand his pain, that anyone could accept him as he was. But through the power of these relationships, he learned that healing doesn't happen in isolation. It happens in community. It happens in spaces where vulnerability is met with compassion, where failure is seen as a stepping stone, not a verdict, and where progress is measured by persistence, not perfection. This group didn't just change his life, they saved it. They showed him the kind of support that heals the deepest wounds, not through words alone, but through action, through consistency, through showing up for one another. If there is one thing that this story teaches us, it is this: the people around you have the power to shape your future. We tend to underestimate just how much influence the people we surround ourselves with have on us. Think about your closest relationships for a moment. Whether they are family, friends, colleagues, or mentors. How do they make you feel? Do they lift you up? Do they challenge you to be better? Or do they drain your energy, reinforcing your fears and doubts? You see, the people who surround you are not just your companions. They are the silent architects of your future. Every conversation, every interaction, every moment spent together is an opportunity to either add value to your life or subtract from it. And in this high-stakes game of life, the last thing you want is to be surrounded by people who aren't moving you forward. You don't have the luxury of time to waste with individuals who don't believe in your potential, who can't see the greatness within you, or who are too consumed with their own negativity to support you in your journey. It's not enough to simply have people around you. It's about having the right people around you. People who see the best in you, even when you can't see it in yourself. People who will challenge you when you're too comfortable and encourage you when you're feeling low. People who will remind you of your why when the world makes you forget. These are the people who will help you build your future, brick by brick. These are the people who will hand you the hammer when you don't have the strength to hold it yourself. But finding these people is not always easy. It requires you to be intentional. It requires you to be vulnerable and honest about who you are, what you need and what you can give. You can't just expect people to show up for you if you're not willing to show up for them. Real relationships are built on trust, on mutual respect, on a commitment to growth, not just for yourself, but for the people around you. It's a two-way street, and it takes effort from both sides. And then there is the reality of cutting out the noise. As we move through life, we are constantly bombarded with opinions, advice and distractions that pull us in 1,000 different directions. The world wants to tell us who we should be, what we should want, and how we should live. But if we want to live a life that is truly our own, we must learn to filter out the noise. We must choose to focus on the voices that matter, the voices that encourage, that uplift, that challenge us to reach for more. Cut out the people who bring only drama, negativity, and doubt. Cut out the voices that tell you to play small, or that you don't deserve success. Cut out the noise that distracts you from your purpose. Instead, choose to surround yourself with people who see the future version of you, even when you can't yet see it yourself. These are the people who believe in you, who see your potential, who understand that your journey is not just about where you are now, but about where you're going. They see the person you're becoming, and they're not afraid to call that person out when you forget who you truly are. They're the ones who hold you to a higher standard, who remind you of your own strength, even when you feel weak. These are the people who make you better simply by being in their presence. The beauty of this is that when you surround yourself with people who bring out the best in you, you in turn, the person who brings out the best in others. You start to show up for people in the same way that your circle shows up for you. You become part of their rebuilding process. You hand them the bricks and the hammers they need to rebuild their own lives. And in doing so, you create a cycle of growth and support that ripples out far beyond your immediate circle. So choose wisely. Choose your circle with the same level of care and attention that you would give to the most important decision of your life. Because in many ways it is. Your life, your success, your happiness, and your fulfillment all depend on the people you choose to walk with. Choose people who challenge you, who believe in you, and who want to see you rise. Choose people who see your future and help you get there. And most importantly, choose people who will never let you forget your worth. Your circle will either make you stronger or keep you stuck. It's up to you to choose which one it will be. Too often we are trapped in the stories that others tell us about who we are. We are led to believe that the person we are today is the person we'll always be. That the challenges of our past define the possibilities of our future. We take on labels, we internalize expectations, and we settle into a comfortable, predictable version of ourselves. But I want to challenge who you were yesterday, who you've been your whole life, is not who you have to be. You have the power to become, to evolve, to rewrite the story of your life in ways you never imagined. One of the most damaging myths we're told is that change takes time, that it's slow, hard, and painful. Sure, change can be uncomfortable, but it doesn't have to be the agonizing process we're led to believe. The truth is that change starts the moment you believe in your own potential. The moment you accept that you have the power to become more than what you've been told you are. You've already begun the transformation. And sometimes that transformation doesn't require years of hard work. It just requires a shift in belief. Think of a caterpillar. It crawls along the ground, inching its way through life, seemingly unaware of its potential. But within it there's a powerful truth. The moment it enters the cocoon, it doesn't work to earn its wings. It becomes a butterfly because it was always meant to. It doesn't have to fight for its new self. It simply trusts the process and embraces the change that is already inside it. And so are you. You don't need permission to become who you're meant to be. Too many of us wait for someone else's approval or validation before we make the leap. We look to the world, to society, to our families, for reassurance that we're allowed to become something different, something greater. But here's the secret. You've already been given everything you need. You don't need anyone's permission. You only need the belief that you can do more, that you can be more, that your story doesn't have to be limited by the circumstances you were born into, or the mistakes you've made in the past. Consistency is the next key. Change, transformation, growth. They aren't magic. They don't just happen overnight. But here's the beauty, they don't have to be overwhelming. You don't need to completely overhaul your life in one dramatic shift. The power lies in the small, consistent actions you take day after day. It's in the habits you create. It's in the decisions you make that align with the person you want to become. And when those actions align with your belief, magic happens. It's easy to give up when you don't see instant results. It's easy to fall back into old patterns when the world seems unchanged. But remember, the journey isn't linear. There will be days when it feels like you've taken 2 steps forward and 1 step back. There will be times when you question if you're on the right path, when doubt creeps in and whispers that maybe you're not cut out for the person you want to become. But let me remind you, consistency is about showing up. Even when it's hard, it's about trusting that every small step counts, even when the progress feels invisible. And then there's courage. Change requires courage. It requires the courage to step into the unknown, to leave behind the comfort of what you know, even if that comfort is just a familiar pattern of self-doubt or fear. Courage doesn't mean the absence of fear. It means moving forward in spite of it. It means choosing to believe in your own worth and potential even when the world around you is telling you to play it safe. Courage is the quiet, persistent voice that says, I am willing to try even if I fail. It's easy to stay where you are because it's familiar. It's easy to tell yourself that the way you've always done things is good enough. But deep down, you know that you were meant for more. You know that there's a version of yourself out there, a version you haven't met yet that's waiting for you to step up and claim. And to meet that version of yourself, you don't need to have it all figured out. You just need the courage to keep moving forward. When you take that first step, when you make the decision to believe in yourself, when you show up consistently and courageously, something powerful happens. You start to transform, not because you've earned it, but because it was always meant to be. It's not about fighting for change. It's about embracing what's already inside you, trusting that you are meant to grow, and allowing that growth to happen. What if we all gave ourselves the permission to evolve? What if we stopped waiting for the right time or the right conditions and just decided today that we would take that step toward becoming who we are truly meant to be? The power of becoming is not about the destination. It's not about achieving perfection or arriving at some final version of yourself. It's about the courage to embrace your journey, to trust that change is already happening, even when you can't see. It's about the belief that you have within you the ability to grow, to evolve, and to become more than you've ever thought possible. So I ask you now, what would happen if you truly believed in your own power to become? What would happen if you stopped waiting for permission and started taking the small, courageous steps every single day? What if you believed that just like the caterpillar, you have everything inside of you to transform into something beautiful, something powerful, something extraordinary? You don't need permission to rebuild your life. You need only belief, consistency, and courage. You don't need to earn your transformation. It's already inside you. And once you embrace that, you'll begin the journey of becoming the person you were always meant to be. You are not broke. You are becoming. You are not behind. You are being built. You are not starting from scratch. You are starting from strength. So stand up, dust yourself off, and begin. Not because you have to, but because you